this is where exactly the impact took place. Those shards of glass that you can see all around. You will see various floors from top to bottom where this kind of damage has taken place.
As the Iran-Israel war escalates, Indian students in the crossfire.
हमें as soon as possible evacuate किया जाए.
War zone worries grip parents. The next Indian mass evacuation ahead. NDTV at Ground Zero.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7. Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru.
Welcome back. What is United States' direct entry into the Iran-Israel war mean? This basically means that Donald Trump and the United States, they have gone where the US never has. United States, remember, has targeted Iranian facilities, Iranian targets, but outside of Iranian territory. This is the first time that something like this has taken place where US has gone into the Iranian territory and targeted facilities inside Iran. And these are the pictures that have followed. America, it bombed Iran and using the B-2 bomber. We had been reporting earlier, last evening at around 10 p.m., we had reported that the US had deployed the B-2 bombers in Guam, and at about 2:13 a.m. Local time, these B-2 bombers, they dropped bombs on Iran and 3 of the nuclear facilities that they had struck. This is the first ever, and this is what we want to reiterate, this is the first ever US airstrike in Iranian territory. And we at NDTV, we are tracking this, whatever that has followed. This is, as I said, the deepest, most aggressive strike that US has carried inside the Iranian territory. Now, Iran's nuclear program, it involves several key facilities, and we'll talk about all these three facilities that have been hit by the United States, and what are their roles, the levels of fortification, which has been the subject of significant international attention, and the recent, as we mentioned, the recent military strikes. If we can have that graphics on here. Number one is the Natanz Enrichment Facility. The Natanz Enrichment Facility, it basically serves as Iran's primary atomic site, and it has been a focal point of the concerns regarding its uranium enrichment activities. It is a notable portion of this particular facility that is located underground. It is a strategic measure designed to protect it from potential airstrikes. And prior to the recent attacks, Iran had been enriching uranium here to what many have believed that to a purity of 60%, a level far exceeding what is needed for civilian energy purposes, significantly closer to weapons-grade material. Many reports have also indicated that the above-ground pilot fuel enrichment plant at Natanz, which was involved, it has been destroyed in the military attacks that were carried by the United States. Meanwhile, the International Atomic Energy Agency, it has confirmed that no offsite radiological impact has taken place. The other one is the Fordow Enrichment Facility. It is also considered Iran's most heavily fortified nuclear site. This enrichment facility, it is, again, like the previous one, situated deep within a mountain on an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps base. It is strategic. It is buried. Location has long made it a focus of the Western concerns over Iran's nuclear program, and it is exceptionally resistant to conventional airstrikes. In fact, the focus of the Western concerns over Iran nuclear program has been this Fordow enrichment facility. And the last one is the Isfahan nuclear facility. The Isfahan nuclear facility is Iran's largest nuclear research complex. It plays a crucial supporting role in the country's nuclear efforts. It houses a uranium conversion facility where raw uranium is processed into different forms, including uranium hexafluoride, feedstock gas for centrifuges used in enrichment. Additionally, it features a nuclear fuel fabrication plant, which produces low-enriched fuel. Now, this particular complex, it also includes many laboratories and the recent military strikes, from what the reports have been suggesting, have damaged several buildings at this particular site, including the uranium conversion plant, similar to Natanz and Fordow. The IAEA, it has stated that no increase in off-site radiation levels has been detected following these attacks. In fact, it is, the status of all these facilities, the nuclear enrichment facilities, it remains a key issue in international discussions about Iran's nuclear capabilities as well as their intentions. Time now for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.
There are sirens which have now gone on in Tel Aviv. We are in this bunker. You will keep hearing the sound of these sirens which is coming in. This is where exactly the impact, in fact, took place. Those shards of glass that you can see all around. You will see various floors from top to bottom where this kind of damage has taken place.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong,
right,
and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Jaggi brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface.
Welcome back. Amid the growing escalation, and especially after the US struck on Iran and the nuclear facilities there, how is the world and the world leaders reacting to this US airstrike? Let's get you the details. My colleague Disha Bagchi joins us live to take us through that.
Absolutely, Osama. So we've been hearing reactions from across the globe. I'm going to start with the most latest, which is from Russia as well as China, both condemning this US strike on Iranian nuclear sites. But then quickly, let's look at some of these other reactions. We have UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who said that he's called on Iran to return to the negotiating table, saying that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and that they basically backed US action on Iran's nuclear sites. Then we have EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen saying that the negotiating table is the only place which can solve this crisis and which it can end this crisis. Next up, we have Kaja Kallas, who's the EU Foreign Affairs Chief, also again saying that both sides need to return to the table, calling for de-escalation, calling for diplomacy. That's a message that we're seeing across these Western countries. Next up, we have the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. He again urged Iran to hold talks with the US and Israel. In fact, these European leaders had held talks with their Iranian counterparts on Friday in Geneva, but there was no breakthrough. So now again reiterating that Iran needs to come to the negotiating table and work out some sort of deal. Now we have UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, who also said there is no military solution to this problem, and that the only hope for peace is on the negotiating table. Then we have the Foreign Minister of New Zealand strongly supporting efforts towards diplomacy. Again, calls for diplomacy continuing. Australia has said that they could call for de-escalation, dialogue, diplomacy. So we're seeing this trend, this message across all these Western countries. Then we have Iraq saying that this strike constitutes as a grave threat to regional peace, to the peace in the Middle East, and really triggers this instability and turmoil. So then we have, of course, some of these other reactions from Qatar, from Saudi Arabia, saying that this strike could lead to massive repercussions for the Middle East and massive consequences, completely the fact that regional peace could be under threat.
All right, Disha Bakshi, thank you very much for getting us all the details. In fact, our rolling coverage continues on the other side of this break with my colleagues Gauri Dwivedi and Vishnu Shom.
Why was there a hurry? Was it the government that was in a hurry?
I don't want to blame anyone.
Joining us today here in the NDTV newsroom.
Government cannot walk away from this responsibility.
Cricket is religion of sort in this country.
Would you like to comment on what happened?
What is the condition of the injured at this point? How many people died?
What exactly happened? You have lost your daughter.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru. Only on NDTV 24/7.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
Iranian President dials Prime Minister Modi. Iranian President briefs Prime Minister Modi in detail about the ongoing situation in West Asia. Prime Minister Modi says that dialogue and diplomacy is the only way forward.
Well, the world is just not the same, is it? After what happened early this morning at about 2:13 a.m., America conducted strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran. This means that America has entered the war with Iran. 3 top nuclear sites, including one embedded in a mountain, Fordo, have been targeted in using stealth platforms.
Israel bombs Iranian missile launchers. Iran retaliates, fires missiles at Israel. Multiple cities, including the Ben Gurion airport in Israel, have been hit.
NDTV reports from the war zone as a result of Iran's ballistic missile attacks on Israel today following the American attacks on Iran. There's been considerable damage in cities like Tel Aviv.
World leaders react on America's strike on Iranian nuclear facilities. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Iran must come to the negotiating table. Japan calls for de-escalation in the Middle East. An EU chief says negotiating table only place to end the crisis.
Tel Aviv's envoy to New Delhi says that more strikes could happen soon. He has assured the safe evacuation of Indians from Israel, a process that is now underway.
Viewers, you're watching NDTV's rolling coverage of the latest developments that are unfolding in the Middle East. I'm Gauri Dwivedi, and with me is my colleague Vishnu Som. And we first get in a view from southern Israel to talk more about how things are unfolding 12 hours after American strikes on nuclear facilities in Iran. All right, Guy Israel joins us live. He's a correspondent with southern Israel. Kai, let me start by asking you how things are looking right now on ground. Iranian strikes continue on several key Israeli cities, even as the Iranian foreign minister said that we have to respond. We do not rule out further responses.
Good evening. Yes, reporting for I-24 News here in southern Israel. Yes, we saw a barrage of missiles fired from Iran this morning into Israel, causing some severe damage both in Tel Aviv and Haifa and another suburb of Tel Aviv. These are the images that you're seeing right there. Massive damage, but I have to say that thanks to the obedience of the Israelis who went to shelters, luckily there were no fatalities. Some dozens, about 23 Israelis wounded in that barrage. Of course, we've seen barrages of missiles sent from Iran into Israel over the past week since Israel started its preemptive strikes against Iranian targets, namely, of course, the Iranian nuclear program, but also against the ballistic missile program, the same ones that are being sent into Israel since the start since last weekend. But we should mention those retaliations or those strikes from Iran did not start last weekend. In fact, Iran has fired hundreds of missiles and drones towards Israel already last year, both in April and in October, prompting a response from Israel that has really prepared the ground for what we've seen this week when Israel has managed to take down much of the Iranian missile defense systems, allowing Israel to be almost free in the skies of Iran, also enabling that American strike that we saw yesterday on those three main nuclear sites in Iran. Right now, security officials, intelligence officials are trying to gather as much information as they can as to the exact damage that was inflicted on these nuclear sites. We've seen images, by the way, of trucks making their way out of the Fordo site just hours before the American strike, as all signs were indicating that the Americans were on their way to hit that site. Sure. We're also getting reports of some fresh Israeli airstrikes in Iran right now. The past several hours here in Israel have been quiet nonetheless.
Guy, just a quick question to you. You've sort of seen, along with your friends, your co-workers, the impact of Iranian strikes over the last couple of days, the intensity of the Iranian attacks. Would you say that the attacks which took place this morning, for example, in Tel Aviv, was some of the most intense over the last 1 week plus?
Look, we've seen over 30 rocket missiles being sent into Israel today. Most of them have been intercepted by the missile defense systems. We've seen several cases of major barrages like this, and this does beg the question of whether Iran has still a large array of missiles to be sent to Israel, and how often do they choose to send those missiles? We know Israel has destroyed many of those missile launchers all over Iran. It is not clear whether they still have an array of hundreds. Perhaps we don't think they have thousands of missiles, but these definitely are a threat to Israel, especially when they're being sent in a large quantity, making it very difficult for the air defense systems. And therefore, we've seen these hits. But again, very luckily, thanks to the fact that Israelis were running to shelters, we didn't see major casualties. But that was not the case last week, where in several cases, several buildings were destroyed completely. We saw over 10 people killed in one of those instances. Several others were killed in other areas as well. So definitely a serious barrage of missiles. The Israeli public is ready for these attacks. All schools, most workplaces are closed. People are in their homes getting information from the IDF, staying close to shelters. And as we see, these instructions really do save lives.
All right, Guy, thank you very much for being with us. Now, just for the benefit of our viewers, I'm just going to run through what's taken place today. It all began with American missile strikes on 3 facilities in Iran, at Natanz, in Isfahan, and in Fordo. Fordo is very significant because it's located within a mountain. So the Americans came in with stealth bombers. They targeted this using very high ordnance weaponry, 30,000-pound bombs. There were approximately 6 of them dropped in Fordo. These are designed to pierce the mountain itself, go deep down before exploding and presumably destroying everything inside. Now, what we did try and do a little while back, based on one image which has been released, it's on social media, it comes from credible sources, is take a look at the missile impact points at Fordo. So let's just take a look at this report which I have. This image actually shows the Fordo site. America has struck this using extremely powerful weaponry, 30,000-pound plus bombs. These are the GBU-57s, deep penetrator weapons. And what we can show you now, and let me just explain, are the possible entry points. So let's focus over here. This is a possible entry point. Let's zoom into this picture that you see on the screen. And you can see the holes over here, which likely mark the exact area where an entry point has taken place. In other words, one of the bombs went in over there. This is another entry point. If we zoom out, we can point out another entry point, right, over here. So if we see that, we can actually zoom in over here and we can show you what exactly that entry point looks like. Now, that is also absolutely critical because this is another area where the weapon actually went in. Now, it went into a certain depth and it is on the basis of that the explosion took place, it is believed, inside. Now, these are the tunnel entrances. These tunnels go into the hillside and these appear now to have been sealed with dirt, presumably as a result of the explosion which has taken place inside because of the US weapons which pierced that mountainside before exploding. All of this appears to be sand at this stage or dirt, perhaps as a result of the explosions which have taken place. So those entrances appear presently to be blocked. Now, this is another entry point over here. And again, if we zoom into this entry point, I can show you that the entry into the tunnel appears to have been blocked. So this is the site. It's a mountainous region. It is inside this is this particular nuclear facility, Fordo, which was struck by the Americans earlier on today using B-2 stealth bombers. So that's what the overall situation is over here. This is, and it's been brought out by the international geoint expert Damian Simon, possibly the first publicly released image of the impact of the US strike on one of the 3 Iranian nuclear facilities which was struck.
All right, viewers, that was Vishnu decoding exactly where that strike took place. And as he was pointing out, one of the 3 nuclear plants of Iran that has been taken down by American strikes. Now, since then, Iran hit on Israeli cities. There were strikes by Iranian side, which followed by Israeli retaliation. And then there was Iran's biggest ballistic missile, which was hit, Khurram Shahar 4, something that they said actually can have very serious consequences. And in fact, there's a soundbite from the Iranian Defense Ministry as well, Colonel Iman Tajik, who spoke about the potential that this biggest Iranian ballistic missile has in terms of causing destruction in Israeli cities. Listen in.
موج 20 عملیات وعده صادق 3 با شلیک 40 فروند موشک سوخت جامد و مایع آغاز شد. در این عملیات برای نخستین بار از موشک بالستیک چند کلاهکی خیبرشکن از نسل 3 موشک‌های هوافضای سپاه پاسداران با بهره‌گیری از تاکتیک‌های جدید و غافلگیر کننده جهت اصابت دقیق‌تر، مخربتر و مؤثرتر استفاده شد. اعلام می‌کنیم هنوز بخش‌های اصلی ظرفیت نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی ایران در این دفاع مقدس عملیاتی نشده‌اند.
Just a quick point about this particular weapon which was used. It's the most sophisticated, or among the most sophisticated Iranian ballistic missile. It's a solid-state missile. It's got solid-state fuel, which makes it more reliable. And I think one of the key, aspects of this missile which we should refer to is the fact that once the warhead separates from the rocket, it can actually maneuver, which makes it very difficult for the Israeli defensive system to intercept, which is why it is significant.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very important point, and I think it also mark then a clear escalation in terms of how Iranian. Okay, yeah, from a technology point of view.
Yeah, so it's not the biggest. I mean, the size in the sense is irrelevant because the range to hit targets.
No, it says 2,000 kilos, capacity to carry 2,000 kilos.
Right, so the range is irrelevant because they've got a range of they've got several ballistic missiles which go well beyond Israel itself. It's the sophistication of this weapon and its payload which is important. And it's not just the payload or the size of the warhead itself, but it's got what's called an MARV. Now, essentially, that refers to technology of what happens once it re-enters the atmosphere. Remember, a ballistic missile goes into space using a ballistic trajectory.
Yes.
It sort of comes back down. At that stage, interceptions often take place, particularly with sophisticated systems like Israel's Arrow. What this does is that it actually maneuvers. And at that velocity, we are talking about Mach 10 plus, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps a little less. Interceptions become extremely difficult as it is. If it starts maneuvering, it becomes almost impossible. That's the trick. And I would suspect that some of the hits may have been because of this missile.
I think that's a very important point that Vishnu is making in terms of why this particular missile is so very significant. Let's also now play out this ground report by Sky News correspondent Alistair, who was right there in Jerusalem when the strikes were taking place and heard those sirens that were being played out. Alistair Bunkle reporting for Sky News from Jerusalem.
It, of course, is an attack on Israel because Israel has been carrying out wave after wave of attacks on Iran over the last 8 or 9 days, hence why we've been seeing these daily missile barrages. But I think we'd also have to assume that it is the first reaction to what the Americans did overnight. Now look, that's a red alert, which means the sirens will probably sound in this area quite soon. Oh, there's can you see a missile? Can you see the trail of a ballistic missile there? Again, that looks to me as though it's heading towards possibly the Haifa or Tel Aviv region, where at the moment it looks like the majority of sirens are sounding around the Haifa and Tel Aviv regions along the Israeli Mediterranean coast. Another one as well. Oh, I can see quite a few there now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Interceptions sky above us, 7, 8. So that is a 9 now. So I think we're well into double figures of missiles fired. Now, in recent days, the waves have often been 20, 25 missiles fired from Iran towards Israel, and it looks like it might be a similar figure now. Clearly not all at once. I can hear sirens in the distance and now all around us as well. Okay, so
Ali,
sirens sounding in Jerusalem, which doesn't necessarily indicate that Jerusalem is the target of these strikes. The sirens also sound when interceptions are above the city because the risk of falling debris is very, very great when the ballistic missiles are intercepted quite high up in the sky. Of course, the debris field can cover a very wide area. I'm seeing another trail of a missile there going through the smoke of previous missiles. Still, I would say, all heading towards, broadly speaking, the Tel Aviv region, and we'll hear shortly, inevitably, the thud and rumble of interceptions.
All right, that's a very vivid report over there from that Sky News correspondent. I'm now joined by Ambassador Javed Ashraf. Thanks, sir, very much for being with us, you along with so many watching the situation closely. Yeah. What is the potential, sir, in your opinion, of this escalating?
Well, there are so many different possibilities. One, of course, is that there will be a direct escalation between Iran and Israel, and that is already taking place. But there will, of course, you'll have to now factor in Iran's. Of course, it doesn't have any air power. Its air defense has been decimated, so it's relying entirely on its missile systems. Now, it depends on how much stock it still has. Some say it has about 2,000 missiles and launchers, but how many have been destroyed, and how many it has used, and therefore that will also determine its staying capacity. But one can expect that there will be an intensification of its response on Israel. The next question is whether it will take any steps against the United States. Now, that I think it will be very cautious about, because for two reasons. One, at the moment, U.S. opinion is very divided on U.S. getting into another war in the Middle East. But if it directly attacks and hurts United States interests, I think there will be a much larger U.S. Support for it, and therefore a much higher level of U.S. response. If you recall, when Qasem Soleimani was taken out in 2020, Israel responded with a barrage of missiles to two bases in Iraq, and then it said it's reached a closure. It didn't do much damage to the United States at that stage. Could it then therefore also try to do something in the Straits of Hormuz? That would, of course, further isolate it, at least as far as some countries are concerned, and some of its supporters currently that at least are giving diplomatic support or endorsing its position with regard to the violation of international law would perhaps not be happy. China in particular, which relies a lot on that. So it'll have to weigh that consideration also taking this forward. Will it try to hit at some of the U.S. bases, etc.? As I said, that could invite massive retaliation and may have collateral damage on some of the Gulf countries that are actually, at this point of time, quite alarmed by the Israeli and the U.S. interest. And finally, what it could also happen is that there would be a sharp increase in the escalation from both sides. And then at the same time, there could be some back-channel efforts to bring this to some sort of an end, because Israel has at least achieved one objective of setting back the nuclear program for at least some time. But the idea of a regime change, I think it gets a throwback to the era of neocons of the turn of the century. And that is, as you've seen in Iraq and you've seen elsewhere in Libya and various places, are fraught with grave risks for the region, for Iran, and I think for the world at large.
Ambassador Ashraf, before we come to divided Washington and how that could impact Trump administration's future policy from here on, I want to ask two specific questions. One regarding a very important meeting that will take place between President Putin and the Iranian foreign minister tomorrow. How do you think that is likely to change the calculus? And also the phone call that took place between the Iranian President and Prime Minister Modi a short while back, where dialogue and diplomacy was stressed upon by the Prime Minister. How do you see these two in terms of the impact and the larger ramification?
Well, as far as the first is concerned, I think that, both Russia and China may at best provide tacit support, some sort of a support in maintaining or sustaining military capabilities. But it is neither of the two is going to be directly get involved in this war. That is, would be the most surprising thing as far as I'm concerned, both because of the way they normally operate, but also because of the current set of circumstances that both countries are facing. But, some level of support that would be material or in terms of military nature and in terms of putting diplomatic pressure through the UN Security Council and internationally will be there. I think there is a great opportunity for both China and Russia to expand their diplomatic space internationally as we see a world increasingly getting fragmented between the West and the rest, at least the South and the East. And that brings us to India. Because, what I see here is that Prime Minister, of course, rightly had a very important conversation. I think he has been rightly insisting from the very beginning on the need for de-escalation, dialogue and diplomacy. He said that, of course, to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he has said this to Iranian president now. And I think for us, it's a very complex situation, not just because of the nature of relationship that we enjoy with both Iran and Israel. I think we don't treat the Middle East and the Gulf region as our neighborhood. But if you just look at the map and see the distance from Indian coast to Iran, it's 543 nautical miles. You see the entire Gulf region is actually some way as close as some of our southern states are. And so, therefore, I think this is a region that you're really seeing a war in our own neighborhood. We've got about 10 million people in the Gulf. We get the highest level of remittances from there. It's still a very major source of energy, oil and gas for us. It's a major market for us. And I think the strategic importance of this region for us is as high as it would be for South Asia. And therefore, for us, this is a matter of very, very serious concern. Now, are we in a position to play any kind of a role in the actually bringing about a de-escalation or an end to this? I don't think that is possible.
All right,
for
Ambassador
us.
Ashraf, I'm just interrupting you now just to tell our viewers that in the next 8 minutes we expect a press conference from the Pentagon. The U.S. Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, among others, expected to talk about the impact of the American strikes. They've also this new reaction coming in now from Iran. Let's just listen in.
The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal.
All right, the Iranian foreign minister over there, speaking defiantly, but also at a certain stage suggesting that the path towards conversations isn't necessarily over. We've heard that elsewhere from the Iranians today as well. Ambassador Ashraf, thanks very much for being with us. We'll come back to you later on. Developing situation over here, as I mentioned, about 6 minutes from now, we expect that important press conference by the U.S. Secretary of Defense from the Pentagon. So we'll get a clearer idea of the impact of the U.S. strikes on Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Yeah.
And also the next way forward from here on, because in the last 12 hours, Vishnu, since these attacks have taken place,
much has happened.
So much has happened, and America hasn't reacted till now. And there is nothing right now in the public engagements of the president today, except for being in the Situation Room with his advisors. So it will be very interesting to see and important to see what kind of commentary comes in there.
Just before we proceed, this animation, it's AI generated, but it's quite fantastic. So let's have that up full screen. It shows the launch of a GBU-57. This isn't exactly a GBU-57. It's a representational image. It sort of goes into this mountain in Fordo. It's designed to actually penetrate the structure of the mountain itself, as you can see. It goes down to, I think, about 200 odd feet, and then it explodes, and everything inside is obliterated. Again, it's something that would take place within a minute or less. And a massive explosion would result in seismic sensors detecting detonation. So that's what America has attempted to do, and the first satellite images have actually indicated the exact points, and we had that report earlier on where they did strike. As importantly, they did strike Natanz and Esfahan as well, using Tomahawk cruise missiles, at least 30 of them fired from submarines and possibly warships in the Persian Gulf.
Indeed. And on that note, let's quickly listen in to what President Trump said when he announced these strikes, where he also said that these strikes were excellent, but warned Iran that if there is any misadventure when it comes to American assets in the region, there will be more strikes. Listen in.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight.
All right. Our colleague Ankit Tyagi has been on ground in Tel Aviv covering every aspect of what has been the kind of devastation on ground with these strikes, and really brings to you the human cost of these decisions that are taken by leaders in their situation rooms and war rooms. Let's play out some of those ground reports of Ankit for you to understand what's really happening on ground in several cities across Israel.
There are certain visuals that tell their story themselves. That man, his house has been completely lost in this airstrike. All that he could retrieve was those shots that you will see in his hands. That's all that he was able to, in fact, bring out of his house. This was the condition that he went into the shelter in. And when he came out, this is all that he has been, in fact, able to retrieve. This is just in the outskirts of Tel Aviv, where a lot of extensive damage has taken place. Look at this, the belongings of people, those whose house is still partially standing, coming out, all packed in these packets to be taken away. Cars here, one after another, all of them standing, absolutely damaged completely, like that man who is surveying, the one portion of his house here. It just tells you the human face, the tragedy that people go through in such conflicts, and nothing, in fact, that I say can tell you the story better than a man who has walked out of his absolutely damaged house with just a pair of shots that he could, in fact, retrieve from there. Cleaning operations going on here from the other houses, as well as the residents all set to move to safer locations, packed with whatever they could pack in their suitcases. Imagine lives being built around these houses, and in just a moment, a fraction of a second, a missile hits and your life has changed forever. That you would see some damage as far as the building is concerned, some broken windows in that building as we speak. So this is the civilian area where this impact of the attack happened just a short while back. Massive security also. I can see, some people, in fact, moving with their baggage possibly to some safer places. But at this moment, this is the situation here in northern Tel Aviv, and where we are reporting from that the civilian areas have been damaged. Now, as soon as the attack happened, and this is how quickly the emergency services have reacted to this. I can see a bank. This is a bank building, and where you see the flag of Israel, the entire glass, it has been shattered there. It's completely broken because of the impact. And right now, the cleaning crew is here. They are trying to clean this entire area up. We are bringing to you this news report right from northern Tel Aviv. And this is the capital city where the impact has, in fact, taken place. Behind me, you can also see the entire cleanup which is going on as we speak. This is a bank which has been impacted in this, and all around as well. There are security agencies, people, those who are, in fact, trying to assess the whole situation. I've seen a lot of people from this very building moving out. I'll show you again the building which has sustained some damage. You will see various floors from top to bottom where this kind of damage has taken place. There are, completely broken windows on this building. So I'm yet to assess, we are yet to know whether there is some sort of injuries that have taken place in this area. But what we know at this moment is that about an hour and a half, this is where exactly the impact, in fact, took place of that hit, the barrage of the rockets and the missiles that came in from Iran. This is a mall area, and this is where the maximum damage have taken place. So right in the heart of the city, here this is. I'll show you the other shops which have been damaged. As far as this entire strike is concerned, many shops in this mall have been damaged, and this is exactly what we are seeing. If you just keep walking on this block, so a lot of people, in fact, trying to salvage the stuff that they have lost in this strike. In fact, some of the section of this has already been blocked, and as you see here, also on this side, there is damage here in the civilian areas of this. This is a shopping center. Thankfully, in fact, since morning it was shut. So I'm not sure whether, there are some reports of what kind of injuries that people have had at this place. We'll try and speak to a few, people, those who were present or at that moment, or at least who came after this, because after the sirens went out, people do run out from these buildings. That another installation, in fact, one other shop, which is here, which has also been broken by the impact where I am standing at this moment, the area that I was showing you from down below. This gives you, a sense, a vantage point of how the damage has taken place. I will point out.
To destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs will demonstrate, it was an incredible and overwhelming success. The order we received from our commander-in-chief was focused, it was powerful, and it was clear. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program. But it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. For the entirety of his time in office, President Trump has consistently stated for over 10 years that Iran must not get a nuclear weapon. Full stop. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. Many presidents have dreamed of delivering the final blow to Iran's nuclear program, and none could until President Trump. The operation President Trump planned was bold and it was brilliant, showing the world that American deterrence is back. When this president speaks, the world should listen. And the U.S. military, we can back it up. The most powerful military the world has ever known. No other country on planet Earth could have conducted the operation that the chairman is going to outline this morning. Not even close. Just like Soleimani found out in the first term, Iran found out when POTUS says 60 days that he seeks peace and negotiation, he means 60 days of peace and negotiation. Otherwise, that nuclear program, that nuclear capability will not exist. He meant it. This is not the previous administration. The President Trump said no nukes. He seeks peace, and Iran should take that path. He sent out a truth last night saying this: any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. Signed, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Iran would be smart to heed those words. He's said it before, and he means it. I want to give recognition to the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Joint Staff, General Eric Kurilla at CENTCOM, who did a phenomenal job, he and his staff, all of CENTCOM. Policy across the board, this was a joint effort, and across the Pentagon effort. I want to recognize the pilots. who flew those bombers, who flew those fighters, who flew those refuelers, warriors. I want to recognize the sailors on those destroyers, in those subs, on those carriers, warriors, all of them. I want to recognize our soldiers doing air defense, base defense, QRF, warriors, all of them. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. And I want to give recognition to our allies in Israel as well. This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision, it involved misdirection, and the highest of operational security. Our B-2s went in and out of downtown Tehran, of these nuclear sites, in and out and back without the world knowing at all. In that way, it was historic. A strike that included the longest B-2 Spirit bomber mission since 2001 and the first operational employment of the MOP, a massive ordnance penetrator. The mission demonstrated to the world the level of joint and allied integration that speak to the strength of our alliance and our joint forces. As President Trump has stated, the United States does not war, but let me be clear. We will act swiftly and decisively when our people, our partners, or our interests are threatened. Iran should listen to the President of the United States and know that he means it, every word. I want to give congratulations to our Commander-in-Chief. It was an honor to watch him lead last night and throughout, and to our great American warriors on this successful operation. God bless our troops. God bless America. And we give glory to God for his providence and continue to ask for his protection. I turn it over now to the chairman for specifics.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for recognizing all of our folks out there doing our nation's work, and nice to see everybody on this early Sunday morning. Last night, on the President's orders, U.S. Central Command, under the command of General Eric Kurilla, executed Operation Midnight Hammer, a deliberate and precise strike against 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. This was a complex and high-risk mission carried out with exceptional skill and discipline by our joint force. I want to thank every service member, planner, operator that made this mission possible. Their actions reflect the highest standards of the United States Armed Forces. This operation was designed to severely degrade Iran's nuclear weapons infrastructure. It was planned and executed across multiple domains and theaters with coordination that reflects our ability to project power globally with speed and precision at the time and place of our nation's choosing. This was a highly classified mission with very few people in Washington knowing the timing or nature of this plan. I'll refer you to the graphic on the side as I walk you through some of the operational details. At midnight Friday into Saturday morning, a large B-2 strike package comprised of bombers launched from the continental United States. As part of the plan to maintain tactical surprise, part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications. This type of integration is exactly what our joint force does better than anyone else in the world. At approximately 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time last night, and just prior to the strike package entering Iran, a U.S. submarine in the Central Command Area of Responsibility launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles against key surface infrastructure targets at Esfahan. As the Operation Midnight Hammer strike package entered Iranian airspace, the U.S. employed several deception tactics, including decoys, as the fourth and fifth generation aircraft pushed out in front of the strike package at high altitude and high speed, sweeping in front of the package for enemy fighters and surface-to-air missile threats. The strike package was supported by U.S. Strategic Command, U.S. Transportation Command, U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Space Command, U.S. Space Force, and U.S. European Command. As the strike package approached Fordo and Natanz, the U.S. protection package employed high-speed suppression weapons to ensure safe passage of the strike package, with fighter assets employing preemptive suppressing fires against any potential Iranian surface-to-air threats. We are currently unaware of any shots fired at the U.S. strike package on the way in. At approximately 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2:10 a.m. Iran time, the lead B-2 dropped two GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapons on the first of several aim points at Fordo. As the president stated last night, the remaining bombers then hit their targets as well, with a total of 14 MOPs dropped against two nuclear target areas. All three Iranian nuclear infrastructure targets were struck between 6:40 p.m. and 7:05 p.m. Eastern time. Again, that's about 2:10 in the morning local time in Iran, with the Tomahawk missiles being the last to strike at Esfahan to ensure we retain the element of surprise throughout the operation. Following weapons release, the Midnight Hammer strike package exited Iranian airspace and the package began its return home. We are unaware of any shots fired at the package on the way out. Iran's fighters did not fly, and it appears that Iran's surface-to-air missile systems did not see us. Throughout the mission, we retained the element of surprise. In total, U.S. forces employed approximately 75 precision-guided weapons during this operation. This included, as the president stated last night, 14 30,000-pound GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators, marking the first ever operational use of this weapon. I know that battle damage is of great interest. Final battle damage will take some time, but initial battle damage assessments indicate that all three sites sustained extremely severe damage and destruction. More than 125 U.S. aircraft participated in this mission, including B-2 stealth bombers, multiple flights of fourth and fifth generation fighters, dozens and dozens of air refueling tankers, a guided missile submarine, and a full array of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft, as well as hundreds of maintenance and operational professionals. As the Secretary said, this was the largest B-2 operational strike in U.S. history and the second longest B-2 mission ever flown, exceeded only by those in the days following 9/11. Well prior to the strike, General Kurilla elevated force protection measures across the region, especially in Iraq, Syria, and the Gulf. Our forces remain on high alert and are fully postured to respond to any Iranian retaliation or proxy attacks, which would be an incredibly poor choice. We will defend ourselves. The safety of our service members and civilians remains our highest priority. This mission demonstrates the unmatched reach, coordination, and capability of the United States military. In just a matter of weeks, this went from strategic planning to global execution. This operation underscores the unmatched capabilities and global reach of the United States military. As the president clearly said last night, no other military in the world could have done this. I join the President and the Secretary in being incredibly proud of the air crews, naval forces, cyber operators, planners and support teams, and commanders who made this mission possible. It is their skill, discipline, and teamwork that makes this operation possible. I am particularly proud of our discipline related to operational security, something that was of great concern to the President, the Secretary, General Kurilla, and me, and we will continue to focus on this. As we stand here this morning, many assets are still airborne, and we have hundreds deployed. I ask that we keep our warfighters on their way home and our deployed service member in our thoughts. Our joint force remains ready to defend the United States, our troops, and our interests in the region. Thank you very much.
We will take a few questions, Phil.
Me?
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shivaru, only on NDTV 24/7. Is your business future ready? Join the 13-week strategic ESG certification program for business sustainability and growth for CXO and business leaders by NDTV, Terry and Zenora. Master global ESG frameworks, gain real-world tools, and lead with impact. Starts July 13th. Enroll now and power your business with sustainability.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I
or
hold
buy time
CDSL for the long term? Buy, sell or hold?
The answers you need, straight from the expert.
Me? Yeah. So, is regime change off the table, Mr. Secretary? And to the chairman, you said the battle damage assessment is still ongoing, but do you believe that some nuclear capability in Iran remains?
This mission was not and has not been about regime change. The president authorized a precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel.
Thanks for your question. I think BDA is still pending, and it would be way too early for me to comment on what may or may not still be there. But thanks for the question.
Green. No, behind you.
Excuse me, Mr. Secretary, can you tell me, was there a particular moment when the president decided to pull the trigger on this operation where he said, now, rather than being, something in the holster, now we're going to pull the trigger on it?
I would just say, having the opportunity to witness his leadership, he was fully committed to the peace process, wanted a negotiated outcome, gave Iran every single opportunity, and unfortunately was met by stonewalling, which is why he gave them plenty of time to continue to come to the table and give up enrichment, give up the nuclear program. But there was I won't say the particular moment, there was certainly a moment in time where he realized that it had to be a certain action taken in order to minimize the threat to us and our troops. Yeah.
General, you say that General Kurilla increased force protection in Iraq, Syria, and Gulf, in those areas. Were they given any advance warning the attacks were coming? And also, Mr. Secretary, when were congressional leaders notified? How long before the attacks took place?
Sure. To your first question, the risk has clearly been rising over the last few weeks in the region. Based on that, and not a particular awareness of this operation, we've made smart decisions to minimize the risk to U.S. forces in the region.
So they were given no advance warning?
No, sir.
And the congressional?
They were notified after the planes were safely out. Well, we complied with the notification requirements of the War Powers Act.
After the attacks, they were notified?
They were immediately thereafter. Yes.
Thank you, Secretary. Two quick questions. Do you believe you completely destroyed Iranian nuclear program?
Our troops and our interests in the region.
He wants peace. There needs to be a negotiated settlement here. We ultimately demonstrated that Iran cannot have a nuclear capability. That is a very clear mission set on this operation. Yes, hold on. Yes, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Question for the Secretary and the Chairman. How was this strike coordinated with the Israelis on a strategic level, militarily, and on a tactical level? Was there any direct Israeli military participation in this operation?
Well, I would say certainly Israel had an incredible military success, especially at the beginning and ongoing, in degrading Iranian capabilities, in degrading Iranian launchers, MRBMs. It's been incredible to watch what our ally Israel has been able to do. And there certainly have been conversations. I mean, General Kurilla at CENTCOM has worked closely in the defense of Israel for many years. And part of this operation was the defense of Israel and the ongoing defense of Israel. But as it pertains to this strike, this was U.S. operated and U.S. led.
We took advantage of some of the preparatory work that's been done over the past week and a half in terms of axis of approach. I won't get into the particulars, but as the Secretary said, it was a U.S. strike. We made sure we were not in the same piece of airspace and sky. Aside from that, that was the extent of it.
We'll take a couple more. Yeah, right there.
Question to the Secretary first. Are you concerned whatsoever now about the reaction from U.S. allies given the strike, particularly those in the Gulf? And to the Chairman, if I may, I understand you don't want to speak to specific assets, force protection measures, but do you anticipate at least having to bring in any further assets from other theaters to aid in force protection over the coming days?
We certainly understand the challenges of allies in the region, and we have been respectful and in working in collaboration with them as it pertains to basing and sensitivities there. Ultimately, they've got a lot of assets and people in those locations also where American troops are co-located. So that's a consideration of ours. We've been in close consultation with them, and we appreciate the support that we have got.
Thanks for the question on sort of the global picture. And as you know, that's one of my jobs, is to look globally at the entire range of challenges. We are always carefully considering our force posture around the world and then offering options to the Secretary and to the president. I won't comment on any future things, but the American people should know that we carefully consider those moves around the world and try to modulate as needed our force structure in the region.
Absolutely. Yeah, right here.
Thank you. What communications are being sent to the Iranians right now, and is there any possibility of diplomacy now or in the coming days?
I can only confirm that there are both public and private messages being directly delivered to the Iranians in multiple channels, giving them every opportunity to come to the table. They understand precisely what the American position is, precisely what steps they can take to allow for peace, and we hope they do so. Yes.
The president may not want an open-ended conflict. The Iranians.
Where the software engineer meets the cool UI UX designer to create the big dream. The world comes together at Sharda University.
Who is bearing the brunt of climate change? Ajay Prashant, who do you think is responsible for the climate change? Who can be held accountable and who are bearing the consequences of it all?
There are just 100 that are responsible for 70% of the world's carbon emissions.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong,
right,
and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam.
Welcome back. You're watching NDTV 24/7, and this is your definitive source for all the breaking developments that are taking place in that escalating Middle East conflict. In fact, a press briefing was being held by Pete Hegseth as well as the Air Force chief there. I have with me Vishnu Shom here in the studio. Vishnu, take us through the key highlights.
All right, what we can do now is actually run you through some of the main details which the Pentagon has now come up with on what has been described as an unprecedented military mission which involved B-2 stealth fighters flying 18 hours to hit the targets that you see on your screen. I'm just going to go through a couple of key points. For starters, there was a deception which took place where a group of B-2s were apparently being directed over the Pacific. That wasn't correct. They ultimately came in through this route through the east after an 18-hour flight. There were 7 B-2 stealth bombers which actually did deploy. While Isfahan and Natanz were hit, it was Fordo which was the primary target of the B-2s themselves. As they reached this particular area, they were escorted by support aircraft of the US, including stealth fighters and older non-stealth fighters as well. At about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there was a US submarine which presumably was positioned in the Persian Gulf, which launched more than 24 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. So those Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles launched from a submarine were primarily used to target Isfahan and Natanz. But remember, the B-2s were already in the air at that stage, and their primary target was Fordo. Now, as they went in, they deployed deception as well. They decided to take out various surface-to-air missile units that the Iranians had deployed in the area, whatever threats that the B-2s which were coming in might actually have faced. At 2:10 a.m. Iran time, 2 GBU-57s were dropped on Fordo, right? These are these big bombs that we've been talking about, penetrator weapons which can go deep into a mountainside with their 30,000 pounds is what the bombs are. Each bomb 30,000 pounds to take out targets deep down. And the first 2 of these weapons, it's the first time that they've been used in conflict, were deployed. There were 14 of these massive ordnance penetrators which were used. And remember what I mentioned earlier on was the cruise missiles. The cruise missiles by this time also hit Isfahan and Natanz. By the time the cruise missiles actually struck their targets over here, the B-2 stealth bombers were actually out and they exited Iranian airspace. The US believes that Iran and their defense are aware of the fact that they had been there at all. No belief were fired in the direction of the US aircraft. The surface-to-air missile units didn't see us, is what the US said. They say they deployed a total of 75 precision guns, including the weapons from submarines and the big weapons, the big bombs on Fordo, which I described a little while back. In terms of battle damage, they say there's been extremely severe damage. In total, 125 aircraft were involved, not just over here, but refuelers, which refueled the bombers all the way from continental America. It was the largest B-2 operation ever, which has taken place, and that the US at this juncture is fully prepared to retaliate. And they say, and they've told Iran, once again, if you try to do something to us, remember America has got many bases across this region. If Iran chooses to attack, then America will hit very bad, very, very hard. The US will retaliate. They say they've got unmatched reach and global execution. Finally, one key point over here mentioned by Pete Hegseth, the US Secretary of Defense. This was an incredible, overwhelming success. It has devastated Iran's nuclear program, and Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated.
All right, thank you, Vishnu, for giving us all those details. In fact, let's listen in to what the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, as well as the Joint Chief had to say in that press briefing.
Last night, on President Trump's orders, U.S. Central Command conducted a precision strike in the middle of the night against 3 nuclear facilities in Iran, Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan, in order to destroy or severely degrade Iran's nuclear program. And as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs will demonstrate, it was an incredible and overwhelming success. We devastated the Iranian nuclear program, but it's worth noting the operation did not target Iranian troops or the Iranian people. Thanks to President Trump's bold and visionary leadership and his commitment to peace through strength, Iran's nuclear ambitions have been obliterated. This is a plan that took months and weeks of positioning and preparation so that we could be ready when the President of the United States called. It took a great deal of precision. It involved misdirection and the highest of operational security. Our B-2s went in and out of downtown Tehran, of these nuclear sites, in and out and back without the world knowing at all. A strike that included the longest B-2 Spirit bomber mission since 2001 and the first operational employment of the MOP, a massive ordnance penetrator. The mission demonstrated to the world the level of joint and allied integration that speak to the strength of our alliance and our joint forces.
All right, in an unprecedented move, the United States, under President Trump, it has launched its deepest and the most aggressive airstrikes ever on Iranian territory, deploying stealth bombers to target key nuclear sites. This historic intervention, it has sparked immediate and severe retaliation from Iran as well, which is now raining missiles across Israel with air sirens sounding and residential areas being directly targeted. We are tracking on NDTV, the mother of all strikes, and we are bringing you the latest on this rapidly unfolding and dangerous new chapter in the Iran-Israel war. In fact, what are the key, defining images, most defining images as far as this entire development is concerned. And in fact, I'll take you through those defining images that actually illustrate the sequence of events and what has followed. Starting with number one, the satellite images of the US airstrike and its impact. Iran's Fordo nuclear site, it was hit. It is, again, most fortified nuclear site which is located on an Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps base. The focus, it has been the focus of Western concerns over Iran's nuclear program. Number two is Iran has launched multi-warhead missile, and this is what we are talking about. The Khyber-Shekhan ballistic missile, it was launched, 20th wave of Operation True Promise. Meanwhile, what has followed is this. Rescue teams are at the spot in Tel Aviv, and these are the pictures of the aftermath of the Iranian attack. Many of the residential buildings, they have also been damaged, and this is the scale of destruction that has taken place in Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel. Now, what has been the impact at Iran's Fordo site? You know, the missile impact at Iran's Fordo site. The United States, it has bombed Iran's Fordo site. And these are the satellite images that show the aftermath of the US bombing, the impact of the United States bombing these separate sites. This is courtesy Damian Simon. Number 5 is Iran's foreign minister. He has condemned the US airstrikes. He was speaking in Turkey, Abbas Araghchi. He went on to say that United States is solely responsible for the consequences that